Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Culture Wave Media Network. This time we have another interview for you guys from the Tribeca Film Festival. This is going to be with the director of the documentary film Rebel Country. His name is Francis Whatley, as well as the country music artist from New Jersey, Breland. I had a great chat with them. We talked about some of the interesting things that this documentary covers, which basically surrounds itself in the current modern landscape of what's happening in country music with emerging artists from all different backgrounds, whether that be race, or gender or sexuality. And it was a really interesting documentary to watch. Again, the doc is called Rebel Country, and I had a really great time chatting with Francis Whatley and Breland. So you guys are going to be able to check that out in a minute. But if you guys can, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. We are the Culture Wave Media Network. We cover tons of films, tons of TV stuff and reviews. Now we're starting to do more interviews, obviously. And getting to cover the Tribeca Film Festival has been really exciting for all of us. So thank you guys if you guys have been tuning in. And we are on the road to 500 subscribers. So if you guys could help out and hit that subscribe button below, that would be a really big help to us. I am Darian Scalamoni, and enjoy my interview with Francis Whatley and Breland. Thank you guys for joining me. Honestly, today I'm really excited to talk about Rebel Country with you guys. Breland, I wanted to start with you actually, though, because first off, we're a company that's based out of New Jersey. And in my research, I found out that you're from Burlington County. And I used to be a film teacher at Burlington County Institute of Technology. So
BCIT,
I thought that was
let's go.
Yeah, BCIT. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you first, like, what sort of influence, if any, did your upbringing in Burlington County have on your artistry in general?
I mean, Burlington is actually it's a little country. Burlington is people don't think about New Jersey as being particularly country, but the neighborhood that I grew up in, we were surrounded by cornfields, and my town is known for a lot of dairy farming as well. And there are a lot of country music fans in particularly the southern part of the state, but now obviously we're seeing really everywhere as the country music thing is growing just all over the world. But you know, I definitely think I have a unique perspective being from New Jersey, being someone that didn't grow up like, a Lanny Wilson in a tiny little town in Louisiana, which you would normally associate with country music roots. But I definitely think where I'm positioned, the style of country music that I make, being from a place where 30 minutes outside of Philly, where you have all of this amazing, Motown Philly, the Jill Scotts, Boys to Men, Jasmine Sullivan's. And what's crazy is that within country music right now, a lot of these artists that you wouldn't even expect, like a Jason Aldean, he's a 90s R&B fan. He loves Boys to Men. He won't maybe tell you that publicly, but a lot of these country music artists are huge fans of a lot of that 90s R&B. And I grew up in a place that was really connected to a lot of that. So I think my country music experience, I'm bringing with me a lot of that soulfulness that you get from the Northeast, but then also kind of connecting with some of my roots down south, and having grandparents and great grandparents that live in Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi, and being connected to a lot of that as well.
For sure, man. Thank you for that. Francis, within Rebel Country, you dive into many different culturally important topics, obviously, throughout the documentary: race, gender, politics, and sexuality, just to name a few. But what made you want to frame Rebel Country in such a way while you were also highlighting the impact of country music in just American history in general?
I suppose the framing now, because I mean, rebels in country music have traditionally been associated with the Waylon Jennings, the Hank Williams, the various other artists from the past as being sort of rabble rousers and prison visiting, drinking, drug taking, etc. And now I see that rebellion in country music has changed, and I think to be a rebel now in country music is to do things that the traditional gatekeepers would prefer you didn't. So that includes all the groups you've just mentioned, who traditionally have been kept out of country music, which seems to me an extraordinary thing in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. Disruption is something that is very prominent within the documentary, and that's obvious. And there's one moment within the doc where you see Jelly Roll sing "Son of a Sinner" within the prison, which was like an emotionally gripping thing, not only as a viewer, but you could see it on all the prisoners that were there. What was it like directing that sequence for the film for you?
I don't remember much about it because I'd arrived on a plane the day before, so I was pretty jet lagged. So we were very, very lucky that we just went through the motions and we were suddenly put in this prison. And the prison, Davidson County, were incredibly kind to let us film in that prison. And it was just, yeah, it was a very, very moving moment. You're absolutely right. It was a very moving moment to have all those prisoners and Jelly connected with them, not just because he's Jelly and he's a sort of exceptional human being, but because he was singing songs that connected. And I think that's what country music does. It connects with people in a way that a lot of other genres don't, perhaps. And therefore, that's why it's so nice to have a film where there are people of all sorts of different groups making that point and making that connection. Whether you're Brooke Eden or you're Sam Williams or you're Lindsay L or you're Breland, you know, all those artists have done something exceptional.
For sure. Breland, what do you think are the next logical steps for country music to continue to evolve and instill that paradigm shift or disruption that's alluded to in the doc by yourself and other people like Jelly and others throughout that are other subjects within the documentary?
I think either country music, a country radio needs to start playing more artists of color, or the genre needs to move past using country radio as the chief barometer of success. One of those two things would need to happen because there are some incredible artists that aren't getting played at country radio, which then limits, you know, the types of festivals that they're able to play, the types of opening slots they have access to, which obviously then leads to exposure to be able to build a sustainable touring model, or even just eligibility at award shows. You know, if your single hasn't performed to a certain level on you know, at country radio, you're not eligible for a lot of these awards within country music. So that's also a visibility thing that I think needs to be addressed. But to me, I think you know, continuing to find ways to highlight and celebrate the artists that have slightly different backgrounds or perspectives or even musical influences. I think it is to the benefit of the genre that those artists have more visibility, because, you know, if you want country music, if you want to homogenize country music into people that just sound or look one way, then you're only ever going to really reach one group of people. And I think the music is too good to limit the audience. And the only way that you're going to reach a larger audience is if you have more people that can appeal to larger groups. And so for someone like myself, who, you know, it's certainly not your traditional presentation of country music, I am bringing in a lot of those gospel elements, a lot of those R&B elements, a lot of those hip hop elements, you know, but I do think that helps me connect with a non-traditional country audience, you know, in a way that a lot of people can't within this genre. So I think for the genre to continue to grow, we have to continue to have artists that think differently and that present their music in different ways. And we have to continue to find outlets for those artists to be able to be played. And if it's not going to happen at country radio, maybe it'll happen in the context of films like this, you know, that celebrates a lot of artists like myself. And I think, you know, seeing artists like Beyonce and Post Malone come into this space from, you know, the pop and R&B world is important. You know, collaborations like Nelly and Tim McGraw 20 years ago, or Morgan Wallen and Lil Durk now, you know, these types of collaborations I think are really significant for continuing to bridge those gaps and grow the genre to new heights. And I think if we want to do that, those are kind of some of the ways that we can do so.
Thank you, man, for such a well-intentioned answer. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Finally, Francis, for you, so much of this doc is synonymous with that name too, and you talked a little bit about the rebels in country music as well. But what was it like? Where was your stance in terms of your eyes in relation to the message you were trying to tell with this film, in relation to the title that you eventually settled on?
In a way, I suppose I hope that there is no need to make a film like this in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years. I really hope that no one will have to make this film again. And I suppose that's the message, that this should be a full stop. I know it won't be done by myself, you know, it won't be done by this film, but I think if there's a collective movement And Breland's absolutely right. In terms of country music radio, there's money in them hills, boys. You know, there's money to be made because you're excluding the enormous Mexican community, the enormous African-American community from sales. Because unless they feel welcome to the party, unless they can go to festivals, unless they can hear this music and feel fine about it, then you're excluding them, and therefore you're excluding a huge revenue stream. And therefore you've got to wake up to that in order to make more money. And that's what it's all about, this business. So
Francis,
I hope
thank you for
I
saying
never have
that.
to make film again.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful wake-up call to everybody, and I really enjoyed the film, and I want to thank you guys again for joining us today. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
This is The Culture.